to the Frugalpreneur podcast. I am your host, Sarah St. John, and my guest today is an entrepreneur, television and podcast host, public speaker, and best-selling author. For 13 years, she hosted MSNBC's Your Business, the network's second longest running program, and the corresponding podcast Been There, Built That. Earlier this year, she and her brother launched an app called GoodPods. Please welcome to the show, JJ Ramberg.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about GoodPods, what it is, and how you even got the idea to start it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about nothing else. GoodPods is a new app where you can follow your friends and your favorite podcasters and influencers so that you can see what they're listening to by episode. So the reason we started it is because I am a big podcast listener and I had a podcast, but I found that I'd be ready to go for a run and I'd think, okay, what am I going to listen to? And I'd spend 20 minutes just kind of scrolling through, trying to find something new to listen to. And then I'd quickly call my brother and say, what are you listening to? And then whatever suggestion he had, I would go listen to. By the time I went through all of that, the time for my run would be over. And so I realized that really I just want suggestions from my friends and people who I admire. And so we created GoodPods so that when I'm about to get in my car or go for a run, I just go through my feed. It looks like Instagram basically or Twitter. And then I see like, oh, Sarah listened to this. Ken listened to this. Jenny listened to this. Those look interesting. And then I'm able to find a new episode really quickly.
Yeah, I've been using it a lot lately. And from a podcaster's perspective, I feel like in a way it helps get more exposure because you can connect with podcast listeners and other podcasters.
Oh, yeah. So when I was an anchor on MSNBC, I had a podcast, as you mentioned earlier. And I found that even with a more than decade-old loyal TV audience, when I launched my podcast, it was hard to get listeners. It was an entirely different thing. I'd mentioned it on the show and it didn't do that much. And when I went and talked to my listeners to see how our audience had grown, a lot of those people didn't even know I had a TV show. It was all from word of mouth. And so what we are trying to say is you don't need big budgets. You don't need to get on a top 10 list, a really high profile top 10 list. What you need is your listeners to tell their friends. And GoodPods makes it easy because when I listen to something, all of my followers see it. So we're seeing independent small podcasts totally go viral within the GoodPods community because it gets passed from friend to friend to friend to friend. And then as a podcaster, if someone's profile is public, you can see who's listening to it and you can engage with them.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've seen in my feed that some people have listened to some episodes, so I'll like it or love it, I guess. And then I'll comment and say, thanks for listening. And then one person rated it 5 stars. I'm like, thank you for the rating. And I just think it's awesome that there's that connection and feedback, which you don't get with really any other podcast listening app.
It's fun. We want it to be a community, right? Podcasting is such a neat way to get to learn about things and connect with different things and connect with different people. But we wanted to really take all of those discussions that are happening on Slack and Twitter and Facebook, et cetera, and put it in a place where you can actually listen also. So it is a podcast-centric social media site where we have people on that you can follow, big names like Malcolm Gladwell and Kim Kardashian and Gwyneth Paltrow. And then, all these other amazing podcasters and listeners. And it's just like in the beginning of Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter. The influencers on GoodPods are not necessarily the names you already know, right? They're new people who are really involved in podcasting.
And I think it's also a good way probably to find guests as well. How many users do you have currently?
Just in the thousands. We are brand new. We just launched this thing and we've launched it rather quietly on purpose by design right now because we were waiting to get our Android version out. We were waiting. I mean, you know entrepreneurship. We wanted to put something out there and really understand what's working and what's not. And so some things that we thought were completely intuitive, right? We got real users on it and realized, oh, nobody understands that. And so we've just been taking this time to get on podcasters like you. I mean, you can find any podcast, but podcasters on you so people can follow you and see what else you're listening to. And then also a lot of those influencer names that people recognize that I had mentioned before. And so now the way it is spreading is just friend to friend to friend. We haven't done any marketing.
Wow. So when did you launch then?
I mean, I am losing all track of time, but I mean, maybe a bit over a month ago. We've gotten a lot of traction without doing anything really to get the word out because, again, it's the kind of thing that you're on and you want to follow your friend because I know my friend Tracy listens to great podcasts, so I want to get her on it. So I invite her, and that's how we're growing so far. And again, that's what's so neat about it is that I'll give you an example. Someone listened early on to this podcast. It was called, I think, How to Calm Down or something like that. The episode was just white noise, but that episode made its way through the network or through the community because it just went from friend to friend to friend to friend.
Oh, wow. That's interesting because I thought y'all had been around longer and that I was just now hearing about you. That's what I figured. But because I've seen you everywhere all of a sudden, I'm always listening to podcasts about podcasting. And so I guess that's maybe why I've seen you everywhere.
Thank you. I mean, I think we went after this as users, right? So we created a product that we wanted ourselves, which is obviously, one way people start companies. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about what this should be. I wish I could show you, Sarah, my Excel sheet. I put on Excel everyone I spoke to before we launched anything. And it is no joke. Something like 700 people that I spoke to, ranging from Malcolm Gladwell to a woman who has a small animal podcast in Kansas, right? And then listeners and the CEOs of these big podcast production companies and distribution companies, because I really was focused on what do people want? I know what I want, but let me check that against everyone else. And so by the time we launched, a lot of people already knew about us because I'd spoken to all of them.
Have y'all thought about doing a desktop version as well, or is it just going to be an app?
Oh, no, we are. We have a huge roadmap of all the things we want to do. We are in the very version 1.0 right now. We are just about to launch an everyone feed. For instance, by the time this airs it, we might already have it. But right now you just have your feed of your friends, of people you're following, but you'll be able to see what everyone on Good Pods is listening to, which is really fun to scroll through. We have to launch our Android version, the desktop version. We have so much to do. So much. It's really fun, but I want it all to get done right now, right? I'm so impatient to get everything launched.
So how do you even make this? Do you have to hire, I guess, developers and stuff? Or was this something you were able to do on your own with your brother?
To make an app like this? This is my brother's third company and my second. His first company was in the job listing space. It was called JobTrack. And then they eventually sold that company. He founded it with my mom. They ran it for 13 years and then they sold it to Monster.com. It was Monster's biggest acquisition, actually, if I can brag for them. It was bootstrapped and they worked so hard and it was just an amazing story. And then Ken and I started a company called Good Shop, which still exists. We still run, and that is in the coupon space. So we list all of the best coupons for, all the online stores. And then when you shop through Good Shop or use one of those coupons, a percentage of what you spend goes either back to yourself as cash back or to a cause that you choose. And so we've donated almost $14 million now to causes. Then when we started this one, we had quite a bit of experience starting companies. Round 2 for me, round 3 for him. So no, it's not the two of us only. I do not know how to program. I am not a designer. As a matter of fact, that is probably the skill I'm worst at. We have a team of people around us who are great at all these kinds of things. 2 of those team, one is my sister and one is my nephew.
So it's kind of like a whole family thing.
We mined the resources. I convinced those 2 to work with us because they're so incredibly smart and good at what they do. And so we've kind of reeled them in.
So with Good Pods, are you making any money? How do you monetize?
At this point in the game, we really need to prove that there is an audience for this, right? As with any company, when we sit around talking in our management team meetings or our whole team meetings, of course, we think this is a great idea, right? We're spending our time and our money on this thing, but we wanted to 100% focus on building an audience and proving out the concept before switching gears to start thinking about revenue.
So are you able to go into other features that's on your roadmap other than the desktop and the Android app?
Oh, there's desktop, there's Android, there's the Everyone feed. There are all kinds of little things that we just need to get done, frankly, like putting a sleep timer on it, things that are not as sexy and exciting, but that just need to get done. Sort of the bigger feature-wise, I'll probably hold off on telling you until they're launched.
So have you thought about going to podcasting conferences like Podcast Movement or Podfest to get the word out more?
Yeah, we went to right before the quarantine began. I was at Podfest in Florida. Thinking back now, it seems crazy that I was at a conference with thousands and thousands of people. And then last summer we were at Podcast Movement. That was before we launched. And then we were going to go, we had a bunch scheduled, but obviously those are delayed for right now.
So what advice would you have for podcasters on the platform to maybe use it, get more exposure?
Good Pods is social media. So it will work for you, but you can't just expect to sign up. I'll just explain how it works for a podcaster. So your podcast is already on Good Pods, most likely. We get a feed of all the podcasts, right? What Good Pods allows you to do is to create a profile so that people can follow you and see your show, but then also what else you're listening to. So you can cross-promote your friends in your own feed. It's a good way for you to help get the word out for other people as well, and then for you. But we've had some people just start an account and expect everything to work for them. That's not going to happen. Just like you can't just create a podcast and expect people are going to discover it. You do need to invite your friends on and invite your fans on to come follow you. And they in turn will invite their friends. And that's where the magic happens. Because if just let's just say I listen to your podcast, say you have 2 followers, right? I'm one of your followers and I listen to your podcast. I have 10 followers. My 10 people are going to see. One of them listens. That person has 10 followers. They're going to see. And so it can spread with not too much work, but you definitely need to invite your friends and fans and get them on.
So the way to invite friends, I guess, it can connect with your contacts in your phone and on Facebook?
It can. There are a couple places within the app. Right on the feed, actually, on the top right, it says invite friends. And so you can click on there and send messages, from a variety of ways. And then also on the search tab for search people, it says invite your friends or connect with your contacts, etc. I really believe in this company and I'm really excited about what we're doing. And I'm really excited about how it's been adopted by so many people who are using it. I mean, as an independent podcaster, it is very hard to get noticed on the big platforms because it's really hard to make it up into that carousel of what's new or what's most popular. On Good Pods, it is not hard to get noticed because you get noticed by your tribe. You find your tribe on Good Pods and then your content can go through the community. And that's what's so interesting to me is being able to create a way for all of these really interesting voices to get to more people.
So do you have a podcast now yourself?
I don't. I probably will at some point, but for a minute, I'm enjoying being the one behind the scenes and not in front of the camera or the microphone. And I really enjoy getting interviewed by other people. So I'm sure at some point I will flip sides again. But right now I'm more focused on getting other people noticed.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss or go over that I hadn't?
No, but I would ask your audience to please go join Good Pods. Follow Sarah before she follows you. Also, this is a collaborative effort between us and our users. And so I tell everyone, if you get on there and you see a feature that you love or hate or something you wish were on there, let us know. We read every email and we respond to everything. You can just get to me at jj@goodpods.com, but we love your feedback. This is how we're making the app better. So jj@goodpods.com.
And again, you can go to the App Store or goodpods.com. And then I'll also have show notes at thesarahstjohn.com/goodpods. Well, I appreciate your time. I've loved learning more about it and other ways I can connect with people, invite people, and so on.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much for all of your support. We really appreciate it.